There's a magical realist novel by Susanna Clarke called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and it contains a beautiful line, which is actually given as a footnote. And the line is that after swift discussion of the problem, it was found to be more convenient to have Mr. Strange move the city rather than change all the maps. And I love it. It's probably the best description I've ever heard of the problem of maps. Okay. And maps are something we use every day. And maps can be anything, of course. We'll see maps when we look at our phones. We'll see maps when we look at the weather. We'll have sort of visual maps in our heads. There are sort of A to Z's. All of these different things that we call maps. They're really problematic. In fact, Mark Marmonier, in his book How to Lie by Maps, he says that maps are like milk. Their information is perishable, and it's wise to check the date. So he's almost saying that they're like milk, maps go off. Okay, like milk, maps go bad. And a perfect example of that would be kind of if we looked at a map from the 1980s, it'll have the USSR on there. Okay, and obviously the USSR hasn't existed since 1989, 1990, something like that. But it'll still be on there. So it's out of date, and you've got to know what you're reading. You've got to know the context of the map. He goes on to say that maps are a bit like speeches and paintings, okay, that they're kind of authored, and they contain the ideologies and the distortions and maybe the ideological blindness or malice that their authors contain. You know, every map that's designed has a purpose, has an ideology. And so it's really important to know that. One of the things to think about is like the maps that used to exist of the British Empire, and they'd all be these massive world maps, and there'd be the pink bits on the map, and that'd be the British Empire. And you'd be able to see that the phrase that the sun never sets on the British Empire would be absolutely true, because all the pink bits would show you how Britain's influence reached out. But of course now, if we look at a map of the British Empire, it's probably a shed on some island in the middle of the ocean somewhere, and that would be the extent of our kind of empire, wouldn't it? So that sort of sense of the sun never setting is kind of not quite as true now. So yeah, the idea of maps is fascinating. The idea that we should always be aware of the ideology and the purpose of any map you ever encounter, because like milk, they go bad really soon.